So I guess some company named Embracer Group has went out and shocked the whole industry this morning. I'm just now really getting to the point where I have enough time to talk about it. And let's go and get on with it. But before we get on with the video, you guys know how it is. Definitely hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. You can always subscribe to the channel for weekly content. And don't forget to go over there and follow me at Twitter at LordAddictILP. Without any further ado, let's talk about Embracer Group shocking the world this morning. What's going on, you guys? Gaming Ad here, coming at you for another video. Today we're going to be talking about something that actually kind of surprised me this morning. I woke up and I found out that a company called Embracer Group has bought Square Enix's pretty much their entire Western development. So let's back up a little bit and explain exactly what they bought. Embracer Group pretty much bought the people who make the Guardians of the Galaxy game. I know they've made other things, but that's the last thing that they made. They bought Crystal Dynamics, the people that made the Avengers and the Tomb Raider game. They pretty much bought the majority of the Western stuff that Square Enix has. Now, what I find interesting here is the price point. So they bought it for about $300 million. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money to, regular folks like people watching this video, but in terms of like a corporation and exchanging money between these companies, it's not really that much money in terms of what they got. They did get the IPs, it looks like, unless I'm mistaken about that. So, if I don't know what I'm talking about, definitely put it in the comment section below. But I'm pretty sure they got the IPs. I understand that a lot of people have this mindset that a lot of their games was on the decline, like in huge portion on the decline. But to me, 300 million is just really light, because even if you look at something like Tomb Raider and the Deus Ex games, like just those individual games, that sure, they might not be huge IPs, but I feel like they'd be worth a little bit of money. Maybe not, as much as something like Elder Scrolls or the Fallout franchise. Clearly, those are bigger brands, but I would feel like they would still be worth a little bit more to get that price tag over 300 million. I did see somewhere that they said Embracer Group is taking on the debt in terms of some of these studios. So that could be the, the little bit middle portion. I actually feel like this is a little disrespectful to, with Square Enix and these studios. Like, you felt like they weren't even worth you owning anymore. And on top of that, you felt like they weren't even worth negotiating for a higher price point. Now, look, I don't know exactly what happened behind closed doors in terms of what these studios provided. Maybe there was a lot of things going on that we don't know that resulted into the 300 million just being that. Now, obviously, I don't think this company was worth like $1 billion or anything like that, but it's just like, man, you got all these IPs, not to mention the studios themselves. Keep in mind, in Insomniac Games, they were able to get that for I think it was like 400 to 600 million, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but you guys get the point. Like, it was a very prominent studio. Now, I will admit, Insomniac has put a lot more quality titles out there. I wouldn't even say quality, because I do feel like they've put out quality titles, but Insomniac's games hit more. It's just facts. They're more popular. So maybe that was the reason that studio is worth so much. But even know that these games that they've made, the Tomb Raider games, all these games that all these studios that Square Enix has been funding all these years, I just personally feel like it was worth more than 300 million. I think it's a little disrespectful. And it's like I said, we don't know exactly what was behind closed doors and that. There could be a lot more to that price point than we know. Look, at first I read this and I was like, it's kind of interesting that Embracer Group made this. If you don't know it, I looked up, I think they own like Deep Silver and stuff like that. Embracer Group's around. You want to get technical when they said Embracer Group. I forgot all about Embracer Group. They're kind of that studio that comes around, that company that buys studios, and then you never really hear from them after that. These games are still going to be multi-plat. I'm curious if Embracer Group will be more open to making exclusivity deals than Square Enix was. Now, with PlayStation, Square Enix was willing to sell any game for exclusivity to the PlayStation brand. It's kind of interesting that a lot of their, games, when it come to, what's what I'm looking for, a lot of their Eastern games was exclusive to the PlayStation brand, but not a lot of their Western brands. It's interesting if you really think about it like that. But Embracer Group, I don't know what kind of relationship they've had. Now, if you look at it from a a cosmic standpoint, you know, maybe this is better for those studios in general. And I think it's better because we've seen so many times that Square Enix would not be satisfied with any kind of sales wise that these studios produced. I felt like they didn't respect them, and I felt like they got anyone to agree to a sell. You know, maybe there's probably like crazy conditions behind the sales, and that's why they got them so cheap. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with these studios. I feel like Embracer Group is going to let them be more them. I know it's not in Sonic. I know Square Enix was kind of like butting their heads in a lot of things that shouldn't have been into. And what's crazy about this is Square Enix has been known to publish games like, you know, Outriders. And so I'm kind of curious to know that they're getting rid of the Western audience in terms of what they're producing, you know, the Tomb Raider studios. I'm kind of curious if they're going to continue to publish Western sized games, or they're just going to like step away from that in general, and the only thing they're really going to focus on is their Eastern branch. I think it's probably going to be the latter. I think you're going to be seeing them, you know, pull away from the Western audience a little bit. Maybe they'll publish games that they feel like is going to actually do really well, but I think they're going to focus entirely on the Eastern markets, you know, the Final Fantasies, the Dragon Quest. They'll be publishing games like Bravery Default, you know, games like that, Triangle Strategy. I think they're still going to focus on those type of games. But as far as like a Western, you know, feel or Western studios that's looking for funding for a game and like, you know, browsing publishers, I don't know if Square Enix is going to take a whole lot more of those, unless it's maybe a pre-existing condition, like they had a contract or something with them. I just don't know if they're going to realistically continue down this road. But it's interesting. It's interesting that Microsoft didn't buy them. I would be very, very surprised if Microsoft still doesn't end up with Crystal Dynamics. See, now hear me out. Like, I'm not going to say that it's 100% better for Microsoft that they own Crystal Dynamics, because if you buy the whole thing in this wholesale and you're able to get all these studios for $300 million, and let's say Perfect Dark comes out and it does very well, I think Microsoft actually they might be willing to sell Crystal Dynamics to Microsoft for probably what they spent on the entire deal and get that money back way quicker. Now, it just depends on how Tomb Raider does too. Tomb Raider comes out and it's not the greatest thing, which, you know, I hope it does well, because I always felt like, you know, what they show on Tomb Raider and how they do Tomb Raider, it's a fantastic quality game. But Tomb Raider doesn't hit the, you know, the strides that Embracer Group wanted, and they actually do a really good job on something like Perfect Dark. I think that would give it an incentive for, you know, Microsoft to pull the bag out a little bit. It's like, look, we're going to give you 300, 400 million. I don't know if it would realistically be worth that much. Probably not, but I feel like if Microsoft wanted to, they could definitely pry Crystal Dynamics from their hands. It's just going to be interesting to see how this co-development goes from not only having another studio working on Perfect Dark, but going from another studio working on Perfect Dark to now switching teams and companies, and now them still working with Perfect Dark. And it's going to be interesting to see if Perfect Dark is successful, if Microsoft won't try a little bit more with Embracer Group, because it might be more easier to work with them than it was with someone like Square Enix, and try to pull the trigger and get that company entirely. I think it's very interesting what the industry is going. We've never really seen stuff like this. This is new territory if you really think about it. But anyway, you know, put it in the comment section below. What do you guys think? Do you think that Square Enix's company Western divisions was worth more than 300 million, or do you think, you know, the games was outdated, they didn't sell well, they weren't received well for the most part, so 300 million makes sense? And, you know, I'm kind of curious, do you guys think that it's a possibility that, you know, if Perfect Dark does well, that they might actually negotiate and still get Crystal Dynamics in the end? I think that's actually a possibility, like I said. But, you know, put it in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.